Have video games gotten worse? Or did we just get fucking old? This is a thought that I have been pondering on for quite some time now. After considering many different factors that may have an effect on why I do not currently enjoy games as much as I used to back in the day, I have concluded that me getting older and recent games not being as fun or unique as they used to are both contributions to why I haven't had much of an interest in gaming recently. The first video games I ever played were on the N64 and the PlayStation 1. But it wasn't until I got a PlayStation 2 that I was molded into a true gamer. I played so many games on the PS2 back in the day. The majority of these games were first-person shooters. There were some games that I could play over and over again and they would never get old. In addition to putting so much playtime into all these games, I was also frequently borrowing games from my friend, as well as buying new games from GameStop all the time. Some games in which I had played a ton back in the day that come to mind are the Splinter Cell series, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, Gun, Ghost Recon, GTA, Red Faction, SOCOM, and Resident Evil. There are many more games I loved playing on the PS2 back in the day, but these are some of the first that come to mind. It wasn't until 2006 that I had finally upgraded from playing the PS2 to the Xbox 360. The first game I had ever played on the Xbox 360 was Halo CE, and I was absolutely blown away. The amount of enjoyment I got out of this game was much greater than anything I had ever experienced on the PlayStation 2. The day I got my Xbox 360 and played Halo for the first time is a day I will never forget. I remember it like it was yesterday. I got home from Best Buy, hooked up my Xbox 360, and popped in Halo CE. While I was playing through the first mission of Halo Combat Evolved, I eventually came to the part where you meet up with Captain Keyes and he gives you a pistol. Shortly after this, when you leave that area, you will encounter 3 grunts. Now, when I was playing and I began to shoot at them 3 grunts, I actually paused my game and walked out of my room. I paused the game and walked away. The reason I did this was because just those few seconds of action I experienced was so overwhelmingly awesome. Just the feeling that Halo CE gave me was unlike anything I had ever experienced before. Not only was I playing one of the best games of all time, but this was also my first time ever gaming on the Xbox 360. Then, when I finally played Halo 2, immediately after I had beaten Halo 1, my enjoyment and excitement for video games had spiked even more. Halo 2 was an amazing sequel to the phenomenal, award-winning game known as Halo Combat Evolved. Halo 2 managed to build off of what everybody loved about Halo CE, and that is why I believe Halo 2 and even Halo 3 were such a great success. About a year or two later, when I finally got Xbox Live, I had started to enjoy video games more than ever before. With this feature that allowed me to play with other people from around the world online, a whole new world of gaming was now accessible for me. Now, I had been playing PlayStation 2 for many years before I got an Xbox 360 or Xbox Live. But when I eventually did acquire these things, not only was I older then, but I was enjoying video games even more. So the fact that I got older and then started to enjoy video games more made me think that maybe age has nothing to do with the amount of enjoyment a person gets out of a game, right? Not necessarily, because I'm 22 now and a lot of new games fail to hold my attention more than a few minutes, and even games I used to love are not nearly as fun as they used to be when I was a kid. For the last 2 years, the amount of time I spend gaming has been at an all-time low. Now, this isn't just because I have grown up and have more responsibilities now, it's primarily because I simply just do not have much of an interest in playing video games anymore. The amount of happiness I have experienced while gaming was at its peak from 2007 to 2011. During these years, most of my time gaming was spent playing Halo games. The Halo series is my favorite of all time. I was pulling all-nighters every weekend, I was staying up till 3 AM on school nights, and I basically never left the house unless I was obligated to go somewhere. Now, this all may sound kinda bad, but my outlook has always been that you should never feel ashamed of spending a lot of time doing what you love. And that's exactly what gaming was for me back in the day. I loved it, I was motivated by it, and I could never imagine myself ever getting bored of video games. But here we are. Back in the day, there were multiple occasions when my Xbox 360 got the red rings of death, and I had to send it out for a repair. The process of shipping my console, it being repaired, and getting my console shipped back to me took about 2 weeks. These 2 weeks were fucking torture, and I literally did not know what to do with my life without my Xbox 360, as bad as that sounds. Now I can go 2 weeks or even longer without gaming just because I have no interest in playing any kind of video game. I remember there was this one night, and it was about 4 a.m., and I had been up all night playing Halo 3 with a bunch of people, and I was starting to get extremely tired. I was drinking a Monster energy drink as well as splashing my face with water to keep myself awake, which usually works. But I was so tired that night that nothing was waking me up. So, I did what I had to do. I picked up the Monster energy drink and I proceeded to pour it in my eyes. This was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done, and my eyes burnt like a motherfucker. But hey, it woke my ass up and I continued to game for several more hours. I feel that this experience is a testament to how much I loved gaming back in the day. Just the fact that I was fighting so hard to stay awake and keep gaming, even though I was dead tired when I could have just gone to sleep at any moment. Nowadays, if I even feel the slightest bit fatigued or sleepy, I do not hesitate to hop in that bed and pass the fuck out. Now everybody says that when you get older you start to feel tired more often, which I can kind of agree with based on my personal experiences. Even if this is true, the fact that I don't fight to stay awake to continue playing games anymore makes me wonder if it's because I don't enjoy games as much as I used to, or are all of these newer games just not as good as games I played back in the day? Like I said at the beginning of this video, I think the reason I don't find myself gaming as much as I used to is due to the combination of both me getting older and not finding video games as fun as they used to be, as well as newer video games failing to innovate and create fun new experiences. Now, speaking of new experiences, I would like to talk about that game that all of you probably have either played, watched, or heard of. I'm talking about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. This game is a battle royale game where at the beginning of the game 100 players parachute down onto various locations on the map, and the last player or team standing wins the game. The battle royale gaming genre has become very popular as of late, and I can completely understand why. When I first played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, I was playing for about 8 hours straight every gaming session. I was pulling all-nighters multiple days in a row to play this game. Battlegrounds offers a very enjoyable and new experience for players, and this is why I feel this game has become so popular. This is another example of when I have gotten older and started to enjoy gaming a lot again, which disproves the idea that as you get older, the less you will enjoy gaming. That being said, I still believe that the amount of enjoyment people get out of gaming is influenced by how long a person has been playing video games, and this is why. I started playing video games back in 2001, and games have evolved significantly since then. From playing games like Pac-Man and Dig Dug on the PlayStation 1, to the improved graphics and variety of games on the PlayStation 2, to the experience of getting an Xbox 360 where games had significantly improved graphics as well as a lot of kick-ass games, then finally getting Xbox Live and being able to play with people from all over the world was a very exciting experience. From 2001 to about 2011, games and gaming consoles were constantly evolving and offering brand new experiences for players. And this is why my interest in gaming was continually growing. Now, in recent years, it seems like the gaming industry has been at a standstill. There hasn't been much evolution in games or gaming consoles lately besides graphical improvements, which is honestly something I couldn't care less about. In fact, there are times when I would prefer much simpler graphics for a game. Graphics do not make or break a game. Good graphics don't make a game fun or give a game longevity. Just look at Counter-Strike, for example. The graphics in that game are not revolutionary by any means. Counter-Strike has a very simple look and art style, and the game is still very successful and arguably the most popular FPS game of all time. It does make a lot of sense that the lack of innovation within games is why I have lost interest in video games as I have gotten older. Now, like I mentioned before, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is a newer game that I have been spending a lot of time playing and really enjoying. The reason I enjoy that game so much is because it offers a whole new style of gameplay that hasn't been seen in older games. This is why I think all these battle royale games like Battlegrounds and H1Z1 have been so popular lately, because they offer new experiences that the players can't find in any other games. Now let's talk about a game that hasn't been doing so good as of late. Call of Duty. Call of Duty used to be extremely popular back in the day, and it was one of the most played games. Don't get me wrong, Call of Duty is still very popular, but it's nothing like it used to be. Not only have people gotten bored of the Call of Duty franchise because it has failed to evolve and innovate over the years, but when developers finally did attempt to evolve Call of Duty games, they were changed for the worse. Not many people were a fan of the futuristic style gameplay seen in newer Call of Duty games like Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare. Now recently it seems like Call of Duty developers are taking COD back to its roots, as we can see with COD 4 Remastered, which is an amazing game that I really enjoy, and COD World War II, which releases this November. Although I believe the classic boots on the ground style gameplay is best for Call of Duty games, I still don't think this will revive the series to what it once was. We've already played COD 4 many years ago back in 2007. Now when we got COD 4 Remastered in 2016, yeah, it was an amazing and fun game, but it's nothing the player hasn't ever experienced before. This same concept applies to COD World War II. Yeah, a lot of people have been hoping that Call of Duty would go back to revisit the World War II era, but it's not like we haven't played a World War II game before. I do predict that COD World War II will be a great game, but I don't see it being exceptionally successful. Personally, I feel that the Call of Duty series is currently in a very bad place. Not one, not two, but 3 COD games in a row were built around a futuristic style of gameplay that many people in the COD community were not a fan of. Of course, these games were Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare. Now that Call of Duty developers are finally realizing what the fans want, it looks like the Call of Duty series is being taken back to that classic boots on the ground style gameplay that we have all grown to love. While I do really enjoy COD 4 Remastered, and from what I've seen of COD World War II it looks like a really good game, I feel that the Call of Duty franchise is at a standstill. Remastering a game isn't going to push a gaming series forward. It's not creating anything new that the player hasn't ever experienced before. And although a lot of people are excited about COD World War II, most of that excitement is coming from the sole fact that we are not getting another futuristic Call of Duty game. People are excited that we are getting back that classic COD formula that we all used to know and love, which is something that future Call of Duty games should not have strayed too far away from. For the last few years, we have seen several games get remastered, and even fan-favorite weapons and maps have been brought back time and time again into later games within a series, like Halo and Call of Duty. Personally, I don't want to keep replaying what I had found fun in games in the past. I would much rather play a game that introduces a fun new experience unlike anything I've played before, which used to happen very frequently back in the day, but not so much as of lately. If you are a fan of Halo, then you must have heard all the talk about Halo 3 Anniversary. So many people in the Halo community really want a Halo 3 Anniversary. I love Halo 3, and it is my favorite Halo game of all time, but honestly, I would much rather get a brand new Halo game that is way better than Halo 3. Instead of bringing back old Halo maps and weapons into newer Halo games, I'd prefer getting brand new weapons and maps that are better than the old ones. And like I said, I love COD 4 Remastered, but I would rather play a new Call of Duty game that stays true to what everybody loved about COD 4. A Call of Duty game that is better than COD 4. Now that Call of Duty is going back to its roots with the boots on the ground style gameplay, it makes me wonder where Call of Duty will be several years from now. After we get a few classic Call of Duty games, will COD developers go off and try something new again? And if that new formula fails, will they revert back to making classic COD games again, and will the cycle just keep repeating? Call of Duty developers should always be striving to introduce new experiences into future COD games, while at the same time staying true to the classic boots on the ground gameplay that the majority of the community loves. And I really don't feel like that is asking a whole lot. Honestly, it would be less work to build off of a formula that has already been established, rather than create something completely different. I can see games becoming increasingly stale and boring as time goes on if developers fail to innovate their games. Games are like anything in life. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, of course it won't be as enjoyable as it was when you first did it. I remember when I had eaten Chipotle for the first time ever. I was blown away by how good it was, and I was eating Chipotle multiple times a week. But now, 500 burritos later, it doesn't seem as good as it was when I first tried it. Same goes for music. When you hear a song that you really enjoy and you listen to it on repeat for a long time, eventually you may get tired of that song even though you were in love with it the first time you heard it. Repetition is what has made gaming a lot less fun for me as I have gotten older. I feel that games need to evolve for the better in order to keep players interested, but at the same time, maybe we have peaked. Maybe this is as good as games are gonna get. What if besides graphical improvements, there is nothing new that can be introduced into video games? I really do think that the reason a lot of gaming series are at a standstill is because game developers don't know what else they can introduce into their games, and in some cases this results in a bunch of new elements and features being thrown into a game that most players do not like. Halo is one of them games. Halo 5 is a game that does not feel anything like previous Halo games, primarily because of the new movement and ability system that was introduced into Halo 5, just because 343 Industries felt like that was the direction that Halo needed to evolve, but in the end this new system had taken away a lot of what people loved about the classic Halo games. There is definitely room for error when developers try to evolve a gaming series, but what's important is that developers learn from these mistakes going forward, which is something 343 Industries has proved time and time again they are not capable of doing. Remember the old saying that your parents used to tell you, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all? The same concept applies when evolving video games. If you don't know of any new features that would benefit what people already love about your game, then don't do anything to change it at all. Now, throughout this video, I have been talking a lot about how video games need to innovate in order to keep players' interest in video games constantly growing. But I have also stressed how later games in a series or franchise shouldn't stray too far from the original formula that made the first games in that series such a success. So you may be asking yourself, well, which one is it? Do you want games to change or do you want them to stay the same? Honestly, it isn't one or the other. Change can be both a good and a bad thing. Certain games benefit from change and other games are ruined by change. An example of change that had a good effect on a gaming franchise was the evolution from the original Call of Duty all the way up to Call of Duty 4. Call of Duty 4 introduced so many new features into the franchise like sprint, kill streaks, and the create a class system. All of these new components improved Call of Duty, and all of these new features were incorporated into every Call of Duty game following COD 4. When Call of Duty started to go down the whole futuristic route was when a lot of players like myself stopped enjoying Call of Duty games. The exosuits, the wall running, and all the other weird futuristic abilities and weapons were not things that Call of Duty needed. Yeah, people were starting to get bored of Call of Duty because it seemed like every Call of Duty game was the same and people wanted change because doing the same thing over and over again usually causes people to get bored or at least not have as much of an interest as they had when they first experienced something, which applies to anything in life, not just video games. I do want to make it very clear that I am not ruling out the possibility that maybe Call of Duty games have peaked. Maybe Call of Duty has found its perfect formula and any change at all would just hurt the game. If this is the case, then I think the best thing Call of Duty developers can do is to just keep making COD games with that perfect formula and don't change too much. Now yeah, players will start to get bored of the same kind of gameplay as time goes on, but if games like COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, World at War, and Black Ops 2 are as good as Call of Duty games are gonna get, then the style of gameplay within them games should be the foundation that all future Call of Duty games build off of. Changing what people love about Call of Duty, or any gaming franchise for that matter, to prevent players from getting bored is not the answer. What it all comes down to is that if a game is very successful and widely popular, then future games in that series should build off of what made that game so great by adding small new elements and features that don't drastically change the game. Another example of a gaming series that benefited from change was the evolution from Halo CE to Halo 3. Halo 2 built off of the success of Halo CE, and Halo 3 built off of the success of both of them games. Halo 2 was basically Halo CE with new weapons, maps, vehicles, game modes, and more custom game options. Halo 3 was basically Halo 2 with new weapons, maps, vehicles, game modes, more custom game options, and some brand new modes like Theater and Forge, which were two features that had a really positive impact on the Halo community. The ability to save a film of a recent game you played was amazing, and it is a feature that fit very well within Halo. And with both custom games that allowed players to adjust more settings than ever before, and Forge allowing players to create their own maps, the possibilities in Halo 3 were endless. And this is why I believe Halo 3 had so much replay value and was a game that people put so much time into. Now, I am very aware that Halo 1, 2, and 3 all play different from one another, but that is just due to the fact that they are different games. They are games with different weapons, maps, vehicles, and game modes, which is why they all play different, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. I feel that the evolution from Halo 1 to Halo 3 was something Bungie did a really good job with. Again, all the Halo games within the original Halo trilogy did play different from one another, but it's not like Bungie went out of their way to drastically change the game, which is something 343 did with Halo 5, and that is an example of change that was bad for a gaming series. With Halo 5, 343 Industries threw a bunch of abilities into the game which they call Spartan abilities, and this completely changed that classic style of gameplay that the Halo community loved from Halo 1, 2, and 3. Spartan abilities were not something that Halo needed, nor was it something that the masses were asking for. Spartan abilities were just a feature that 343 threw into the game because for some reason they felt that Halo needed to drastically change from what it was, even though people are still in love with the first 3 games in the Halo series to this day. Now, a game franchise that hasn't changed much at all since the very first game in the series is Gears of War. I think it's safe to say that the gameplay in every Gears of War game has pretty much been the same besides a few small differences. Gears of War used to be extremely popular back in the day. Its popularity actually used to compare to games like Halo 3 and COD 4. The Gears of War community has definitely dwindled down over the years, and the average population for newer Gears games are very low compared to Gears 1 and 2. I believe that the significant decrease in population is due to the fact that Gears of War hasn't evolved over the years. Now, I do really respect the fact that Gears of War has stuck to its roots and later games in the series have not strayed away from the components that made the first Gears so great, but as a result from lack of innovation, a lot of players have grown tired of the Gears franchise. Now, I know I have talked a lot about games becoming increasingly boring and less fun as years go on if games fail to innovate and create new experiences. I want to make it clear that I am in no way saying that if games are not constantly evolving and innovating, then eventually games won't be enjoyable at all. That's just foolish. If you currently love games now, odds are you will never hate them. Yeah, they may not be as fun and enjoyable as they were when you first started playing video games, but there most likely won't come a time when you can't stand them. What I'm saying is that if video games don't continually evolve over the years, then they may become increasingly more stale and a little less exciting as time goes on, which makes sense considering repetition is something that makes everything less exciting over time. Many people have predicted that virtual reality or even augmented reality will grow to become the future of gaming. Honestly, I don't see this happening at all. Virtual reality is cool and all, but I don't think it is something that should or even will replace the style of gaming that we are all used to today. I think VR is its own unique experience and an addition to gaming, but not so much the evolution of gaming. I mean, just imagine the average person coming home from a long day of work and they just want to kick back, maybe have a few drinks and play some video games. You really think putting on a VR headset and walking around your living room is really going to replace that? Yeah, I don't think so. Or maybe you're the hardcore gamer who stays up all night playing with your buddies. I can't see how walking around your room at 3 AM could ever replace sitting in a chair with a controller or a mouse and keyboard in hand and a variety of snacks by your side. I predict that I will always enjoy gaming no matter how old I get, but it won't even compare to the passion I had for gaming back when I was a kid and had no responsibilities. Getting older is obviously a part of life, and with that, things you used to get a lot of enjoyment out of won't be as fun as they were several years ago when you first tried them. Although I am convinced that the fact that I have been gaming for a long time now is a reason why gaming isn't as interesting as it used to be to me, I do feel that a lot of gaming series have taken a turn for the worse, as well as other games bringing nothing new to the table. Even current gen consoles don't feel that revolutionary, and from my experience owning an Xbox One, there are a wide variety of bugs and issues with games for that console, and even the console itself has a bunch of issues. As well as all these problems with the Xbox One, there are also a bunch of new inconveniences that Xbox One owners have to deal with, like installing every single game before they can play it, even though on the previous gen Xbox console you could just pop the disc in and play immediately. In some cases, like with current gen consoles, it feels like we are taking several steps backwards, which definitely is not a good thing. That's pretty much all I have to say about this topic. Please let me know what you guys think about all of this. Do you find yourself not enjoying video games as much as you used to back in the day? And if so, why do you think that is? What are some of your most memorable experiences that come from playing video games? And what do you think the future holds for gaming? Thanks for watching, hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay tuned to my channel for all kinds of gaming related videos being uploaded in the future. Currently, I have a bunch of video ideas that I think most of you will find interesting. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.